Okay. I just started to record. Please mute your computers or your phone if you're listening, and then unmute as you have questions. The name of this webinar is Taking Dominion, the Beginning of a Better Life. And we'll be looking at things from a spiritual perspective and how you can make your life better with some of the knowledge and the tools that have been presented through some of the ancient texts. Just a few little housekeeping as soon as uh, I got to get my PowerPoint working right. What? Doing it again. My computer has frozen up on me a little bit. There we go. I've got to click in the right spot. All right. So for the housekeeping, we ask that you please mute your speakers, as I previously said. Feel free to unmute and ask questions. Nobody can see you, so don't feel like you shouldn't ask questions. Nobody can see you, and nobody really knows your name. So unless you share it, they don't know. The presentation is being recorded for future use. The PowerPoint presentation will be available for download, or I will email you a copy upon request. Once we have completed the webinar, please, please, please take some time to give some feedback. Sparkles, for you, the feedback should be on Meetup. Sabrina, if you get the opportunity, post on the Facebook page. And then finally, have an open mind. As we go through the webinar, because this is a spiritual teaching and we're drawing from some Christian beliefs and thought processes, I want everybody to have an open mind. Everybody is not a Christian on the webinar. Everybody is not churched. So this is not going to be a sermon. It's not going to be any invitations to Christian discipleships or things like that going on. But we will use this information to help us in understanding life and how to have a better life. So next up, what my goals are. It is my goal as a spiritual transformation coach to use ancient wisdom found in teachings of past leaders to empower you to live your best life. My desire is to give you tools and knowledge that allow the spirit inside of you to grow to the point where it transforms first the mind, then the body, and finally your life. It is not my goal, as I previously stated, to convince you to go to church. It is my goal to make you understand that you are the church. God lives within you. It is not my goal to convince you to accept one particular belief system over another, but it is my goal to convince you to believe in, first, yourself, second, in the power of love, and third, in the fact that there is a power greater than you, and this power is always for you and not against you. This power, once understood, has the ability to transform your life in ways that cannot be accomplished in your own strength. How do I know this? I know this because these same teachings empowered me to change my life. And I'll share a little bit about when the day came where the pressure got so hot, as they say, that I had no choice but to lean and depend on all of these teachings that I had learned. I came to a juncture in my life where it seemed like everything was chaos. Everything. My finances were chaos. My personal relationships, the romantic relationships were chaos. Somebody came in my life, lied to me, broke my little heart, and left me feeling just completely broken. My relationship with family members was strained. There was some hurt feelings between me and a sister and me and a brother, which created drama with me and my mother. And my dad just tried to stay out of it all. And so that was chaotic. My relationship with my son was stressed. I was always worried about him. And just nothing was going right. And so one day when it got bad, and I literally remember lying on the floor crying, just crying, because it was just, I couldn't go anymore. and just calling out to God and saying, please help me, please show me. And as I was growing and getting out of that state that I was in, what empowered me were the things that I had been exposed to all my life. I grew up in church. So because I am a Christian, I had that information, but I'd also expanded my knowledge and started studying other stuff. And so all these concepts and these thought processes started hitting my brain. And I remember distinctly being in the shower feeling like I was just ready to give up on life. And I remember hearing a song, a gospel song that said, I shall live and not die. And it was like that information just kept going through my body, going through my spirit. And it was like at that moment, I understood what it meant to live and not die. Dying means giving up on life. Dying means retreating from the world and giving up on ever experiencing any joy, ever experiencing any happiness in life. And for me, at that time, it meant being alone. And that was something that just wasn't the way that life looked, just was not worthwhile to me. And so as I started hearing those words, I shall live and not die, that helped to start that spark to bring me back. And I remember another time where I was actually in the shower again. A lot of things happened in the shower. My mind had a tendency to race. And I felt like if I just let go, my mind would leave and I'd just be gone. I knew in that moment that I was like this close to crazy, this close to being in a mental institution, because I could feel my mind leaving me. And then I heard scriptures in my head that said, God has not given you a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. And that became my mantra. That became what I said to myself all the time. Even now, now that I'm on the other side, um, at times when I run into situations where it's scary, I'm uncomfortable, I don't want to do it, guess what I hear in my head? God has not given you a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. And that's what propels me to get in front of a camera, as much as I hate being on camera, and propels me to get in front of people and talk to people about things like this so that I can share the information that really did change my life, that really did bring me out of what some people call a dark night of the soul and pull me back to the light and pull me back to life. So this is what's motivating me to be here to do this and to share this information. I recently adopted the title of spiritual transformation coach because life coach just didn't seem to fit. Life coaches do some different stuff. They don't bring in, some of them don't bring in a whole lot of spirituality. But I am a certified life coach. But I knew that that wasn't the only way to help people. That whether it be learning Buddhism, whether it be learning Christianity, whether it be becoming a Muslim, whatever your background was, if you drew on this wisdom, that it would empower you to shift your mindset and move in a different direction and help you. So that's my mission, is to help you change your life through these things. So now we're going to get started. And we start with the question, are you living your life or is life living you? And when I first heard this in my head, it was in 2003, roughly. I was in college. I was overwhelmed. I was anxious. I had excessive obligations. I was failing at just about everything. And my professor pulled me into his office and said, look, you need to get it together. You're doing too much and you need to prioritize. This is important. I know you're a good student. And I talked about taking care of family and giving back and and how I was always that person who would give you the shirt off my back to help somebody. And he was like, you need to make yourself first. Put yourself first. And I got to thinking about it later, and the thought dawned on me. if I give you the shirt off my back, then I'm just going to be cold. So I got to the place where I began to recognize that I can give, but I have to take care of me first. I can give if I have an extra shirt. I can't give you this shirt off my back because that's all I have. And I have to maintain me. But in this world that we live in, we're always being told that number one, we need to be in control of everything. Well, truth of the matter is, very few of us control anything. Control is almost like a myth. And when you come to the realization that there's not enough locks you can put on your door, there's not enough guns you can own to prevent what is supposed to happen from happening. So you have to develop some type of peace. You have to find a way to get those thoughts out of your head. Because when you're preoccupied with those thoughts of negativity, as a parent, I'm not the best parent. I didn't do all I needed to do as for my child. I need to do more. My niece is a prime example as a parent. She spends her whole entire day running. The kids are in every activity imaginable. She's cleaning. She doesn't. She does all the housework by herself. She cooks every day, and she has a full-time job. I joke with her and say, "Okay, keep on. You're going to have a heart attack before you're 50." But this is what her mind says needs to happen in order for her to be a good parent. As a single person, a lot of times people look at you, especially in my case, it's like you 45, you're a decent looking woman. What's wrong with you? The reason you're still single. And I've learned not to take on uh, that negativity and say there's nothing wrong with me because I'm still single. I'm just picky. I don't want everything. As an employee, our bosses can create an environment where we are absolutely miserable if we allow them to. Um, all of us have probably had a horror story with a boss who literally drove us crazy, who we could do nothing right in their eyes, and where we just felt like the job was going to kill us because of the level of work that they were requiring from us. And then you have your basic requirements as a woman. You are supposed to be this kind of woman or that kind of woman. You need to have your hair combed all the time or makeup on or dress a particular way. And even as men, hopefully some of the men who were on the meetup who said they were going to come were able to make it. Men, we think as women that we carry the heaviest burden, but men carry a lot of burdens on them. I saw a photo on a meme on Facebook, and it was the picture of a man carrying a woman on his back, and the woman had the world in his hand, and she laid on him, letting her let him carry her. And as I looked at that image, it's like, oh, this is what love. This is love. This is what a man is supposed to be. And I'm like, how much pressure is that on a man to believe that you got to carry your wife and then carry the world for your wife, the family, the house, all this stuff? That's enough to drive one person crazy. And this is the world that we live in, this world of constant messages, constant things that cause us anything, anxiety, stress, problems, fear, depression. All of this is that word responsibility, what we have to do, what we should do, that creates our problem. But, and this is where it goes into the taking dominion, we were created to control life, not the other way around. And I used the text from Genesis, where it talks about Adam and Eve. It says, from the beginning, and this is the text, and God blessed them, talking about Adam and Eve. And God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every little thing that moveth upon the earth. Some key words to pay attention to in that text is subdue the earth and take dominion over everything in it. This is a divine right. This is a birthright. This is a heritage item. You have within you the power to take authority to not only survive, but to thrive in this life. Life is not just about survival, but life is about thriving. And this seminar is designed to help you get some of the tools necessary in order to get out of survival mode and get into thriving mode so that you can have what is promised as being an abundant life of experiencing love and peace and joy, also experiencing pain and suffering and disappointment, but not letting it control your inside. Life comes with bumps and bruises, but it doesn't have to control what we feel. The recognition that we are not just an external being, but we are an internal being also, and that it's that internal being that truly is eternal. First and foremost, it is eternal, and it has the power to engage us and cause us to do things that we might have never thought possible. And I'll use what they call hysterical strength. I was doing a study on the power of love one day, and it clicked. Look up his women who have saved their children from cars, and I did a Google search on this, and so many stories. It was unbelievable that there were pages and pages and pages of information on Google about people who had rescued their child through what they called hysterical strength, where somehow, some way, something took a hold of them and gave them the power to lift the car single-handedly off of their child. And that same power that can be tapped into in a hysterical moment can be tapped into from a calm and peaceful moment also. And so it gives us the power to create control over our lives, not the other way around, not having life control us. All right. So what does it look like to take dominion? I use this picture here of David defeating Goliath, but I use this picture as kind of like tongue in cheek because most people think that dominion looks like something external. It's always an external battle of controlling and manipulating external forces. I've even heard individuals refer to their coworkers, supervisors, spouses, friends, and even family members as demons. Imagine that. People that you're supposed to love, you walking around calling them demons and saying, be gone, be cast into hell, you. You know, that is not how we're supposed to live. And looking back at Adam and Eve, in their story, God said have dominion over the animals and everything that was in the earth. But then there are also information that says that Adam and Eve took the time to name each and every animal in the garden. And when I think about that, all I can imagine is what we do as parents when we're naming our children. We don't just naming a child is an act of love. When we think about what do we want to name our child, it's almost as if we're pronouncing blessings and empowerment over the child. In many cultures, they choose the name in order to pronounce blessings over the child. And so it's a very painstaking process. But you have to know what you desire for the child, know how you want their life to turn out when you consciously choose a name for a child. Now, I recently learned that my name means joy, which is really kind of hilarious because my whole entire life has been about experiencing joy. And this is one of the most joyful times that I've ever had in my life. And I can say that my parents chose my name properly. And in the story of Adam and Eve choosing the names, when you see a bear now, you say bear. It's not even a separation between a bear and the entity that is. You know that that's the bear. That's how you identify it. So when I look and take these things into consideration, I understand that this picture that we see right now is not what dominion looks like. This is about overcoming challenges and obstacles, but taking dominion of the earth and the environment around you and all the things thereof has got to look like something different based on the fact that Adam and Eve lived in peace with their environment and the animals contained in the garden. So, based simply on that fact, we know this isn't dominion. So, what else could look like dominion? And I put on here the picture of a peaceful lake with a dock and trees, and it's just a beautiful, serene, calm environment. And these are words that I would choose to use with dominion. And based on what I understand about the spirit, this is what dominion looks like: a calmness, a stillness. This is how I would describe dominion. And when you come to a place in life where you feel this this spirit, this calmness and this peacefulness, then you'll understand too that it is about, this is truly dominion, because nothing else can touch you when you're in this space. Okay. So next up, we have our mantra for taking dominion. And this is the 23rd Psalm. It was written by King David, and it is a beautiful poem about what it looks like to take dominion to me. And it says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemy. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." So in the 23rd Psalm, David is showing us a relationship and an understanding of the Creator that keeps him in peace. It's also a relationship and an understanding of the way that life works that keeps him in peace. A relationship where he was guided, where he was where he was provided for and protected and empowered to be at peace in the world, where every pain, challenge, disappointment is an opportunity to grow and develop in more trust and more understanding, to learn more about peace. I know there are many people who don't look at the 23rd Psalm and see that, but that's what I see when I look at it. A place of peace where nothing harms you. And we'll go more into this a little bit later on. But I wanted to just give you an idea, another example of what we're talking about. We're talking about internal climate control. Dominion looks like climate control. And what I want to use is, I use the example of an air conditioning. In our homes, we have the ability to control the climate to ensure that no matter what's going on the outside, we're still comfortable. As a matter of fact, my air conditioner just went off. In the winter, we turn on the heat, and in the summer, we turn on the cool air. If you're like me, on any given day, you can walk into my home and see the temperature is approximately 75 degrees. At night, because I tend to get hot due to being older, old age, I won't say old age, but being older, I tend to get hot. So I drop the temperature even lower to approximately 72 degrees so that I remain comfortable even in my sleep. Each one of us has the power within our inner being to adjust the climate internally, but it requires practice and awareness, and it requires that we take control, that we first recognize that we are the ones who are in control of what goes on internally. We may not be able to control anything that's going on externally, but we control what goes on internally. Once you take dominion over the internal, the external has no lasting effect. From this place of peace and calm, you can make better choices, you can make better decisions, and you will begin to see a change in your life for the better. So let's understand that whatever happens in the world, just like our home, is getting ready to pour down rain out there, but I am protected from the rain. I am protected to whatever temperature is going on outside. I don't have any clue what the temperature is outside, but I know that in my house, the temperature is 75 degrees and I'm comfortable. This is the way we should approach life, and this is the way we should approach the world. So, what are some lessons that we can learn from good old King David in the 23rd Psalm? So I put the first thing is recognize. So step one is to recognize. Recognize there is a force at work greater than you. Once you recognize that there's a force at work greater than you, whatever you call it, seek to tap into that for help. Ask for guidance. Spend time learning about this power. Pray and seek information. If you don't believe that this stuff really exists, I challenge you to look at all the information about intuitiveness and hearing things that you didn't know, or being given ideas that seem to come out of nowhere, that change both your life or even the world. All I can think about is Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs talked a lot about intuition. And Steve Jobs was the Google guy. I always get him and the Microsoft guy mixed up. But not the Google guy, the Apple guy. They literally changed the world with an idea, with an inspiration that nobody else could have possibly given him, because nobody else had done it before. Not only did he have the inspiration to create Apple, but he had the inspiration to market it, to sell it, to make billions of dollars off of it. This came from the intuitiveness. This came from a tapping into that divine energy, that divine light that exists. Now, there are people who tap into it for a short period of time, give what they need, and move on and go back to living life any way that they want to. But I encourage you to tap into it and stay attached, because that's when life truly starts to balance out and I call it being like Neo in the Matrix. You truly become a master of the Matrix versus being controlled and manipulated by the Matrix. You now understand how to master and manipulate the Matrix yourself, because you are still connected to the creator of the Matrix. You have the source data, you have the information. I'm getting into my nerdy mode with computer information to control the program. You control the program. So stay connected to the divine light, recognizing the divine light as your shepherd, as your leader, as your guide through this world that we live in. Step two is to release all attachment to life being a particular way, so that you don't live in anxiety and fear. Okay, this fear piece is a challenge, but I'm going to share with you a story of what I was led to do during this very, very challenging period that I spoke to you of earlier. I think I didn't mention that my job was going crazy. So I mentioned that I was having relationship problems on every hand. I had financial problems, but I didn't mention that I was also going through tremendous struggles on the job. And when I say tremendous struggles on the job, I worked for the federal government, so I had the power of the union and an attorney fighting with me against some of the allegations that were made against me that were completely false, completely false. But because there was so much, it was so many layers of involvement, it was hard to even, they had literally convinced people that what was the truth was actually a lie. And so I found myself just miserable. I mean, just sitting up nights worried about my job. I have a very well paid job. And it's like, I've worked this hard and I've gotten this far, and now they're trying to take it from me. And one day, as I was praying, the idea popped into my head to meditate on losing the job. And so I did that. And I'm talking about, I went through the whole entire process from start to finish, from having the conversation with my boss to receiving the piece of paper telling me that I needed to go, to packing up my office and leaving. And then I would have to ask the question, so what happens next? Next, then I need to let go of some things that I can no longer afford because I can't afford it. So it's like, okay, well, I might lose my car. And then, but every time I said I might lose, something in me said, but that's not going to kill you. That's not the worst thing that could happen. You can get it back. And so I continued, I continued, I continued. And by the time I got through with that meditation to release my fear, I started seeing advantages to being fired. I actually looked forward to having them tell me you don't have a job no more, because then I started thinking, well, if I get fired, I can start a business. I can get on unemployment until I get my business off the ground. And I've been working long enough to have a pretty decent unemployment. My parents have an extra house, so I can go and live in an extra house and, live within my means. Will I have to give up a car? Okay, no big deal. I'll give up a car, but I can get another car. And so I started seeing opportunity in that exercise, and seeing that opportunity completely diminish any fear that I had with losing the job. Now, what was the benefit of releasing the fear? The benefit of releasing the fear is that when you operating out of fear, you have anxiety. That anxiety is like a self-fulfilling prophecy. That anxiety works to draw to you all the negative things that you can imagine, because that's what your mind is constantly on, day in and day out, drawing in negativity, drawing in negativity. And so because you're constantly drawing in negativity, you make mistakes, you trip up over yourself, you get yourself in trouble because you're creating this self-fulfilling prophecy based on the fear that something might happen. Because you fear that it might happen, you literally draw it to you, because that is what you're meditating on. That is what you're preoccupied with. And so the exercise that I did allowed me to push it in the opposite direction. And I became peaceful. And the people who were attacking me, it was almost as if their attack had no power. And they were floored that the attack had no power. Eventually, they got bored. Eventually, knowing what was right, operating in that knowledge, and knowing what they couldn't do empowered me to fight and to stand and to win the fight. I told this story one time to a group of women, and one person raised their hand and she said, so where did you end up going after you lost your job? And I looked at her and I said, I'm still on the job. And to this day, I'm still on the job. And amazingly, right now, they're working with me to create a coaching program within our region that is going to have a built-in promotion with it. And they're paying to help me do everything I need to create this program. So the moral to the story is, find your peace. Find that place where you release all that fear and get calm, because it is in that calmness that inspiration comes. It is in that calmness that knowledge and wisdom come to help you overcome any challenge that you may face. That's where you do that, releasing that fear. Now, there are many exercises to help you release your fear. That example of that meditation was just one exercise. A lot of the times, releasing fear can be as simple as just pushing past it, saying, okay, I'm not going to think this thought. I recently submitted my application to do TED Talk, and I've been saying it for 2 years now. I want to do a TED Talk. I want to do a TED Talk. I want to do a TED Talk. But when I got in front of my computer and actually started filling out my application, all these thoughts went through my head. These people who do TED Talk are so much smarter than me. They're such better speakers than me. They're professionals. They have all these titles and I don't have any of them. All these negative thoughts started going through my head. And in that instant, my spirit said, no, God has not given you a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. And with that knowledge, I said, okay, if this is not of God, if this is not God causes fear, I've got to push past it. And so overcoming fear and releasing your fear can be just as simple as that. Realizing that this doesn't belong to you and you've got to push past it. Push past it. That is not divine. That is not positive. That is only negative. That is only dark. That is not light. It is not building you up. It's only holding you down. So releasing that fear is an important piece that we see in the 23rd Psalm. David said in the 23rd Psalm that I will fear no evil, for thy rod and thy staff protect me. They comfort me. So hold on to that knowledge that you have that there is a creator out there who is always concerned about your well-being and always being creative and sending good things, positive things your way. You just got to be able to open your eyes to see them. And being in fear causes your eyes to be shut to the opportunity, to the good things, to the chances, to the victory in the challenge. All right. So step 3 is forgiveness. And I put in my notes, forgive all those who hurt you. And while that sounds easy, it flows off the tongue real nicely. This is a toughie. But it becomes easier when you realize that forgiving others is more about you and not about them. A quote from Buddha. Buddha says that holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned because you're holding the hot coal. And so when we encounter things that hurt us, when we encounter people who hurt us, we have to learn how to quickly pass it on. Let that go. Don't internalize it. Release it. Let them go of the obligation to fix it. Because the truth be told, I don't care how many times somebody apologizes to you, how many times they say they would do it a different way, or even if they start to do it a different way, what happened in the past cannot be changed. And the hurt that you feel cannot be fixed. It cannot be taken back. And so the only way to get past that hurt and that pain is to just simply release it, let it go by forgiving them and making them no longer accountable for the actions or the things that happen. And I want to go back to the 23rd Psalm again, because in the 23rd Psalm, it says that God prepares a table for David in the presence of his enemy. And as I read that, I think, okay. And then he says, surely my cup runneth over. And let me go back and look at my notes so I don't mess it up, because I'm about to mess it up. It says, you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. And I'm like, why would God prepare a table for David in the presence of his enemy? And then one day the light bulb came on. Ding! When you sit at the table, your enemies are no longer. They no longer have any power. If you are walking in forgiveness, if you are walking in love, then your enemies become a non-issue. and you can have joy in the face of the folks who work so hard to hurt you. And you can sit and share a meal because you are at peace and you are calm in your spirit. They have no effect on you because you have forgiven the harm and you have moved on. Now, the interesting thing about forgiveness is this: the other person may not be ready to receive that they're forgiven, and so they may actually have to move on out of your life because they can't tolerate you being at peace with them. The way that I see it is a win-win situation. If you can accept my forgiveness and forgive yourself and correct your behavior, then it's all wonderful. Let's stay in communion with each other. But if you are uncomfortable, eventually my forgiveness and my expression of love for you is going to push you away. Not by anything that I do other than operating in my peace and calmness. You will find a way to avoid being around me. And so there is no action to take when you've been hurt. There is no revenge. There is no fight. It's just forgiveness and moving on. Moving on. Letting go of that hot coal so that you no longer burn your own self. Realizing and protecting yourself by not harboring the offense. Not harboring the offense. Okay. So this brings us to our question and answer session. We've covered some information pretty quickly, I would have to say. So I'm going to unmute your phones. Everybody's unmuted. I see that we've had Rochelle to join us, Gloria, my mom, hey mom, and Bernice. I see your hands up. I didn't see those earlier. So you're free to talk now.
Are you talking to me, Letitia?
Everybody's unmuted, so everybody's free to talk now. Whoever wants to go first. Any questions? No questions? Comments, thoughts? As my old boss used to say, cuss words, fuss words, or no words.
I think it's interesting your analysis of forgiveness, and it not being about you. It's not being about them. It's really about you. Because when you forgive people, you have a tendency to set yourself as well as them free.
Exactly.
And we don't think about how when we hold stuff, it imprisons us. There's an old saying that you can't keep someone else in prison without imprisoning yourself. And so when you walk around with hatred and envy and bitterness inside of you, it has a tendency to hurt you oftentimes more than the person who's doing something to you. And so it's better to release it and let them go.
That's a very valid point, because so many times people don't know that they've offended you in the first place. They
Right.
just going on about their life and not thinking that they've hurt you to this point. They would never imagine that what they've done to hurt you to that point. And so you're stuck and they're moving on. Now, there are times where people do hurt you intentionally, but when they hurt you intentionally, they don't care either. And so they're still moving on and you're stuck. So the key is for you not to be stuck, but for you to move on and move forward. Yeah. Anybody else? Sparkles, I see your hand up. Is that accidental? Okay. All right. Well, I will move on to the next slide as soon as my computer lets me. Okay. So my final thoughts on taking dominion is this. Taking dominion is a path of peace that empowers us to take authority of the effect that external stressors have over our lives. We can all find success when we seek to learn the lessons from our challenges. Remember, the Creator is for you and not against you, and walk in love and forgiveness. Peace and love and happiness must be first found within. It cannot be found without. You cannot control anything. You cannot make a person do anything, of course, unless you twist their arm. But even then, it's grudgingly and under compulsion and insincere. And so you have to find that happiness and that peace within yourself. I only have a couple more slides. I wanted to encourage you guys that if you want to learn more on spiritual transformation, I have a few resources. First up is my book, Life Lessons from the Bible. Life Lessons from the Bible is really a story of healing, using my personal healing, actually, using information, the story of the Tower of Babel as a backdrop to frame some of the concepts and some of the ideas that I present in that. I also would encourage you to visit my website, letitiarlittle.com, where you can give free resources on spiritual growth. I do a blog there. I also post other webinars there and things like that. If you're interested, if you're in the Jacksonville area and you haven't already done so, I'd like to encourage you to join our meetup group, Bearing Fruit Coaching and Empowerment. We're actually going to be doing a lot of different things, exploring a lot of different things to help empower us and cause us to grow and live our best life. Next month, the month of May, is Energy Month. And so we actually have one of our members who is a Qigong instructor. And so we're going to learn a little bit about Qigong, and then we're going to study some on energy and have some talks on things like yoga and things like that for the month of May. So the meetup group is pretty good. We'll do a social out in St. Augustine, where we'll just have some fun and have a meal together. Finally, I just want to say thank you guys for all coming. Help me to improve. Please be sure to share your feedback. This is how I improve. If you like the webinar, say you like the webinar. If there were things you didn't like about the webinar, say that too. I might take it off of the public site, but I will internalize it and take it into consideration. So we've gotten through a little early. This is the end of my slide presentation. If nobody has any questions or comments, then again, thank you for showing up. All right.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Raise my hand. Okay, there was a lot of information. Can we, at some point, just email you or post questions on the Facebook page?
Yes, that would be awesome. That would be
okay. Awesome. Next question. Are you ever going to do a Periscope again? Just wondering.
Yeah, I have a Periscope. You know, it's that doggone camera thing. Now that I'm growing more and more used to the camera, Periscope is on the horizon.
It could help you with TED Talks. Practice.
You're right. Very true. So, yeah.
Okay, you know I'm a cheerleader for you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Well, again, thank you guys so much. I look forward, hopefully some of you can join us for our future teleconference and webinars that we'll be doing. God bless you and keep you, as they say, until we see each other again. Have a good night.